Well, it is the 27th day of October 2021. Thank you for choosing TV47 News tonight to inform you. My name is Musa Saleh and we have a lot lined up for you. But first, these are the top stories making headlines. Tonight, anti-corruption court now told Member of Parliament Oscar Sudi was not a student at the Kenya Institute of Management. Also tonight,
and our failure rate, particularly in English, is extremely high.
Only 10 out of the 300 unemployed clinical officers passed the language test required for the United Kingdom jobs. Plus, malaria prevalence rate has declined by 2% from 8% in 2015 to 6% in 2020. Welcome to the broadcast. Anwa Iremu is our sign language interpreter. TV47 News Tonight begins right now. President Uhuru Kenyatta has appealed the High Court's decision directing him to appoint the 6 judges that were left out during the swearing-in of 34 others who had been recommended by the Judicial Service Commission. Through lawyer Waweru Gatonye, the head of state argues that the High Court order is patently illegal and likely to create a conflict between the office of the Chief Justice and that of the President. He wants the order halted until his appeal is heard and determined. Last week, a 3-judge bench of Justices James Wakiaga, George Dulu and William Musyoka ordered the President to swear in the judges within 14 days, failure to which they will assume office within 14 days if the head of state does not officially appoint them. The 6 judges include Agre Muchilule, Weldon Korir, Joel Ngugi, George Odunga and Judith Omange. Well, still in the corridors of justice, Kapseret Member of Parliament Oscar Sudi allegedly forged his diploma certificate to seek clearance to contest in the 2013 general election. John Masheshe, a former head of examinations at the Kenya Institute of Management, told the anti-corruption court that Sudi never registered as a student at the institution. John told the court that the copy of certificate presented to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission belonged to Scholastica Achieng Odhiambo, a student who was registered in 2005. John was testifying in a case where Sudi has been charged with forging a diploma certificate. The legislator is also accused of forging his KCSE certificate.
And that's why I'm asking you. You said that you had access. If you look at that MFI. Now, in that letter,
has not been communicated. Amos Karani, yes, I'm going to
for you tomorrow, extreme correspondence states that the IO before they have a central database for admission.
Thank you. The institute has a central database. Were you working at the central database?
I don't say when the student was admitted.
And that's why I'm asking you. You said that you had access.
Well, let's get some good news. And malaria prevalence rate has dropped by 2% from 8% in 2015 to 6% in 2020. This is according to the Kenya Malaria Indicator Survey 2020 released by the Division of National Malaria Program and the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. Now speaking during the survey launch, the head of National Malaria Program, Dr. George Githuka, attributed the drop to sustained prevention intervention measures in the high-prone and endemic areas in the country. Our health and science reporter Zainab Mohammed has more.
The Kenya Malaria Indicator Survey 2020 has shown a steady decline in the malaria prevalence in the country by 2% from 8% in 2015 to 6% in 2020. According to the survey, the prevalence that is varying greatly by endemicity zone ranges from less than 1% in low-risk zones to 19% in lake endemic zones. Among children aged 6 to 14 years, the survey found that malaria prevalence is higher among rural children as compared to urban children by 4%, from 7% in rural living children to 3% in urban living children. Eligible children aged 6 months to 14 years were also tested for anemia, the survey finding an overall 2% of children having low hemoglobin. In terms of intervention measures, the survey noted an uptake of 3 or more doses of intermittent preventive treatment in the targeted endemic areas being recorded, with the Lake region recording a 14% increase from 2015 and the coastal region recording a 3% rise. However, the survey shows a downward trend in the adoption of other key malaria indicators such as the ownership and use of insecticide-treated nets. In the percentage of households owning at least one net, the survey shows a decrease of 49% from 63% in 2015. Similarly, the percentage of the household population who slept under a net the night before the survey was conducted decreased to 35% from 48% in 2015. The survey concluding that only 29% of the households have enough nets to cover each member should one net be used by 2 people. Zainab Mohammed, T47.
While still on matters health, only 10 out of 300 clinical officers passed the English language test required for the United Kingdom jobs. Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe says the unemployed healthcare workers that were supposed to serve in UK's National Health Service failed the English language test administered by the UK Embassy. Maria Mwacharo has more.
290 out of 300 unemployed clinical officers in the country failed miserably in the English language test for UK jobs. This is according to Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe, who said only a minority of those who applied for the job qualified.
Let me tell you what has happened, and this is the truth. When we test, because there are certain tests that one has to do depending on the region in the world that you are going to. For instance, the ones who are going to England have got to do tests in English, and they have got to do tests, I think, in computers. And our failure rate, particularly in English, is extremely high. True, Dr. We sent 300 people to do the English exams. 10 passed.
Kagwe termed the turn of events as unfortunate and appealed to the healthcare workers to put more efforts to ensure they surpass the employment standards set for the jobs abroad.
I mean, we are going to negotiate, yes, but you are going to have to pass the exams. Not me, you. So when we do those exams, let's prepare ourselves. Let's set the standards. Prof, let's set the standards so that we are sure that there is no exam anywhere on earth that a clinical officer trained in Kenya can fail. This is an issue. And therefore, when you talk about technologies, when you talk about the future, we need to prepare ourselves to be in that space.
The unemployed healthcare workers recently got a chance to work in the UK as part of the new scheme requested by the government early this year. The Health Cabinet Secretary at the same time promised various reforms in the health sector, saying that it's imperative that the National Hospital Insurance Fund caters for the full medical expenses for Kenyans in order for the country to realize affordable healthcare.
As a government, the way that we are going to keep this cost down, as I've said, is that we are going to improve, reform, and make sure that the National Hospital Insurance Fund is one that can be able to provide and cater for. The purpose of the institution is not just to pay for you and then leave you to sell your cow so that you can meet the difference. The purpose is to pay completely. When you say affordable health care, it means you don't go back to your pocket if you have got a National Health Insurance Fund registration.
Kagwe added that talks are underway to ensure healthcare services are affordable to all Kenyans. On the other hand, welfare for the healthcare workers is set to improve as clinical officers' interns are yet to be posted abroad. NHIF and the health sector is expected to realize reforms in the future. But according to Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe, this is not enough if quality training is not realized to achieve competency in the global market. Mariam Wacharo, TV47, Mombasa County.
Well, thank you, Mariam, for that report. Let's now switch gears to politics. After months of soul-searching, Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru on Tuesday ditched the ruling Jubilee Party for Deputy President William Ruto's UDA. The first-term governor was touted as President Uhuru Kenyatta's favorite in Mount Kenya region, and her exit from the ruling Jubilee Party could change the political landscape in the region. Although pundits have termed her move as political suicide, it appears Waiguru could be Ruto's running mate in the 2022 presidential elections. Tuesday's closed-door meeting at Deputy President William Ruto's current residence was perhaps Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru's last resort to saving her short political career, ditching President Uhuru Kenyatta's Jubilee Party for the United Democratic Alliance UDA, a new political outfit associated with the Deputy President and which has made inroads in Jubilee strongholds. Waiguru, who was once President Kenyatta's point woman in Mount Kenya region, will defend her seat against her greatest rival and county woman representative Purity Ngirishi, an ardent supporter of Deputy President William Ruto. The two expected to battle it out at the party primaries before going to the ballot.
Kwa sababu kiongozi ambaye anafikiria ati yeye ndio anaambia wananchi na sio wananchi wanamwambia, huyo ni kiongozi ambaye anaweza jipata mahali ambapo unakuwa mtu irrelevant. Kwa sababu wananchi ndio wanaamua.
Na sababu wamekuja wakati ni late kidogo, mimi kama ambaye nitasimama governor katika hiyo chama, I am asking them wakuje, wakuwa wapole, tutaenda nominations na mimi niko tayari kumenyana na wale.
But it appears Waiguru's change of tune is a strategic gamble, torn between retaining President Kenyatta's Mount Kenya base and appeasing other regions. Ruto faces an uphill task in selecting a potential running mate, a dilemma that Waiguru is set to exploit to her advantage.
As you have said, you have been waiting for this moment. I have also told you, even on this other side, we have also been waiting for this moment. Because we all knew it is going to happen. When was the problem?
Selecting a running mate from Mount Kenya region would make it easier for Ruto to woo Uhuru's supporters, but has the danger of entrenching the two communities in the presidency narrative that can work against him. Ruto strategists, however, say whoever will be picked as a deputy must have a firm grip on their political backyard so as to add significant votes to Ruto's basket to successfully ward off the opposition onslaught. If she loses the party nomination and fails to convince Ruto to pick her as his number two, pundits argue that Waiguru is assured of a top government job or a nomination slot in parliament, a possibility that the county boss is said to be counting on.
Excellency, Madam Governor.
Well, 3 new members of the political party's dispute tribunal have taken oath of office at the Supreme Court. The 3 new members, Teresa Jepkemei Chepkwonyi, Mutumbwa Wilfred Ahonya, and Kirago Gad Gadhu, were sworn in office at an event that was presided by Chief Justice Martha Koome. The 3 were appointed by Justice Koome after their nomination by the Judicial Service Commission. Koome, however, called on the tribunal to serve Kenyans without fear or favor.
Kenyans expect you to work towards the realization of the goal of strengthening our constitutional democracy through the resolution of political disputes that arise before the elections in a just and expeditious manner. And I'm happy to echo the speech by the chairperson who has talked about access to justice. And that goes with the sovereign power that is bestowed on us as adjudicators to always be mindful of the principles in the Constitution of ensuring at all the time we render justice and we do so with fairness.
Well, 15 minutes past the hour and it is time to take our first commercial break, but we'll be back with more. Do stay with us.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories. Next on Men's Conference.
Do you think men should be in social media as much as women are?
I have no problem with men being on Snapchat. That's totally fine with me.
If you are on social media and it's for no purpose and you're just flaunting something that we are not interested in or it's not helping any other person, you're just a miserable imitation of a man.
If you want to do it, then do it.
Authentic, natural, planned. Transforming. Endless benefits. Slaty, purely Kenyan. Buy now on Jumia or Amazon.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
Alright, welcome back. You're watching TV 47 News Tonight. Keep talking to us. 22047 is our SMS line. You can also find us on social media at TV47 Kenya on Facebook, as well as at TV47K on Twitter. The hashtag to use is always TV47 News Tonight. Now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, insists it is facing a budget deficit of 14.6 billion shillings. IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati has told the Parliamentary Committee on Budget that the Commission requires 40.9 billion shillings to conduct the 2022 general election. Joash Onsare has more.
Members, kindly make it brief. One or two questions.
The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, now says it is facing a deficit of 14.6 billion shillings. The Commission's chair, Wafula Chebukati, told the Parliamentary Budget and Appropriation Committee that the Commission needs 40.9 billion shillings to conduct the 2022 general election.
Budget is 40.3 billion. Plus 533 million for COVID, making it 40.9 billion. Now that budget is what we were explaining to the committee. It's activity-based, based on the legal framework we have in the country. And as a commission, one of our biggest challenges is actually the issue of funding.
Speaking when he met members of the Parliamentary Budget and Appropriation Committee, Chebukati said the National Treasury allocated the Commission 26.5 billion shillings and later added the Commission 10 billion shillings. According to Chebukati, the electoral body only received 2.1 billion out of the 2.4 billion set aside for the mass voter registration exercise.
The allocation in the budget this year this financial year 2021-22 was 26.5 billion. Already National Treasury has considered adding 10 billion, which has to go through this the Committee of Budget and Appropriations and Parliament before we allocated that money. So there's progress, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Further, the IEBC chairman has assured Kenyans that the voter registration exercise will continue at the constituency level after the lapse of the 2nd November deadline.
Kumbuka tukimaliza na hii mass voter registration next week, bado watu wataendelea kuregister kwa constituency, bado transfers itaendelea mpaka hiyo register iwe closed 90 days to election. So hii ni jambo ambayo litaendelea na Wakenya wasio na wasiwasi.
The chairman of the Parliamentary Budget and Appropriation Committee, Kanini Kega, has stated that they will have another meeting next week with the Commission before they meet the National Treasury CS Ukur Yatani.
Tutakuwa na kikao kingine ili tuandike ripoti ambayo tutaipeleka kule bungeni, na pia tutakuwa na kikao na Wizara ya Fedha ili tuhakikishe kwamba zile fedha ambazo zinahitajika kwa wakati huu ili tuwe na uchaguzi ulio wa haki na wa kuaminika, lazima tuhakikishe kwamba hizo hela zinatolewa kwa wakati ufaao.
Joash Onsare, TV 47.
Well, still along the same breath, Interior Principal Secretary Karanja Kibicho has pointed an accusing finger at the Judiciary and the National Cohesion and Integration Commission for failing to successfully prosecute culprits of political violence. And as Paul Kirobi now reports, Kibicho has promised the country of a peaceful general election.
But it was for good reasons.
The blame game on who is responsible for prosecuting hate-mongers continues, with Interior Principal Secretary Karanja Kibicho now accusing the judiciary of failing to effectively ensure those fanning violence and hate speech stay behind bars. Speaking during a symposium that brought together Interreligious Council of Kenya, NCIC and the Ministry of Interior, Kibicho said efforts to ensure hate-mongers are punished have been fruitless thanks to the judiciary.
When a person is arrested by NCIC because of hate speech and they are released the following day, the message we are passing to NCIC is that they are doing useless work. When a person is arrested in a scene of crime and obvious crime committed and they are released the following morning free, a matter is said that will be heard in June next year, we are injuring the morale of our people, the law enforcers, and therefore we've also taken the opportunity before the religious leaders to speak to our judiciary so that they reconcile.
Kibicho has promised that the government will beef up security ahead of the 2022 elections, with special cadets expected to work closely with the electoral body IEBC to ensure a peaceful country.
But I want to...
However, Uasin Gishu Governor Jackson Mandago has poked holes on the mandate of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, saying officials from the commission are misleading Kenyans on some matters.
Nimeona jana Eldoret kuna watu ya National Cohesion and Integrity Commission hati wanakuja kuzunguka, hiyo ni fitina. Kama watu wanafanya mambo ya uwazi, wafanye kupitia ofisi ya governor na county commission.
However, NCIC has promised to ensure political parties sign a decency charter to enhance accountability among politicians and political parties ahead of the next year general elections.
That we will then have the leaders of the registered political parties to sign a charter on political decency and accountability and commit themselves to call their own members to order so that no political party will tolerate members of their political party involved in hate speech.
We encourage IEBC to focus on technical issues deemed critical to election legitimacy, such as the electoral databases, reliability, and electoral results compilation.
NCIC says it is committed to ensuring lasting peace in the country.
They can know you.
Paul Kirobi, TV 47.
Now imagine you drinking Mira juice, Mira energy drink, or even Mira wine. This will soon be a reality after the government put in place measures to boost the trade of Mira in the country. And as Elizabeth Atieno now reports, the Ministry of Agriculture has showcased drinks produced in a Mira plant in a bid to add, or rather create, a value addition for the stimulant.
Soon, Kenyans will be able to enjoy Mira not just as a plant, but as a drink with varieties like Mira juice, Mira energy drink, or wine.
This effort is also welcome because in the long term, as the government has pointed out, we need to see other ways and means of diversifying and packaging our products to access changing markets.
And it is our time that tea got processed and now nobody choose tea leaves. So you can imagine if tea is being sold as leaves, then we sell Iran. How much trade can we do?
Speaking during the National Scientific Mira Conference jointly organized by the Kenya Medical Research Institute KEMRI and the Meru County Government, Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i announced plans to set up an intergovernmental committee to address issues hampering the growth of the Mira industry in a bid to promote exports.
My proposal, effective today, is that we have a standing intergovernmental team on Mira. Intergovernmental because it will bring the county government of Meru and the interministerial team, as I said, that is chaired by the PS Trade, together in addressing these issues as we move forward.
The government also accused the National Authority for Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse NACADA of spearheading negative campaigns against the Mira product.
Like what NACADA is saying is something that we need to check. Anyway, it's true, they work under my ministry. I promise that I will speak to them to revise their position and stop harassing Mira traders and farmers across the country.
The government has pointed out and been making it difficult to go to the next level, especially the issue of NACADA continuing to treat Mira as a drug. Yet there is no scientific evidence anywhere that proves that Mira is a drug.
Matiang'i has called for the inclusion of Mira discussions in bilateral talks to expand market for the farmers. Elizabeth Atieno, TV 47.
Interesting indeed. Now, the construction of classrooms to boost the CBC program is set to begin in earnest, with Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha promising Kenyans that the classrooms will be ready for use by April next year. Catherine Wimbe has more.
Preparations for the construction of 10,000 new classes in public schools is in top gear ahead of the transition of learners from primary to junior secondary, with Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha saying the construction is expected to begin soon.
Our goal is to deliver. The government will provide the money. Nobody can say he or she is going to pay you for what you are going to do.
Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha is specific on who will receive the tender for the construction of classrooms aimed at creating an additional learning space for the 1.1 million grade 6 learners.
We go back to these fundis. In fact, I'm looking at my own village home and I can already see about 4 or 5 different groups who have a roadmap of building classrooms over the last 30 years. Are we going to identify them or not? You must identify them so that this money goes, the way the president wants, the money goes to the lowest person and stimulates the economy coming upwards.
In a meeting that brought together county commissioners, Magoha painted a clear picture on the government's expectation, terming the classrooms as simple and cost-effective.
I would want, at the end of this process, me and my brother, Fred Matiang'i, we send out again an advert to the public to say that this is how we have done the schools. And if you like, you can go and have a look at it.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i was also in attendance and called on Kenyans to embrace the CBC program.
For us to succeed, I would like to request you kindly, please, to push so hard our teams in the sub-counties to start preparations now.
CS George Magoha is clear on one thing. The construction of new classrooms will require a teamwork. He is encouraging divergent views as long as the goal is the same. Catherine Achieng Wimbley for TV 47.
Well, that report takes us to our second commercial break, but we'll be back with more. Remember, you can follow this live broadcast on www.tv47.co.ke. Do stay with us.
47, the home of untold stories. Exclusive juicy details you didn't know about. Your favorite.
Oh, hi guys. Sorry, you found me 5 minutes before I started recording, but anyway, so most of you have been asking me why I started Lady CLC 19 with Joy Rongo. I have also had my own share of pain. I know how it feels to want to give up. This is basically here to speak hope and inspire somebody who's going through a rough patch, to tell them that they can turn their pain into power. Our guests are normally here to share their experiences so that you can know somebody else did it, so you can also come out of it stronger and better. Let me go to my recording, and remember to always stay tuned every Saturday at 8:30 p.m.
Undertaking husband duties on a boyfriend tender.
Guys, with bromance, do you share your woman with the bro?
Have a sister? Give me your sister. I show you how these things are done.
So you go release and be like,
Men supporting each other, not only financially, but also socially.
Don't mingle with women you can't deal with.
Is there really a formula for dating and marriage?
Some men are procreational, some men are recreational.
Every Wednesday on TV47, the Men's Conference brings you a cocktail of top-notch advice to breed alpha males for alpha females in the society.
Tunaweza tumeite nje tutesiwe do. Mimi naitwa Ben. Mimi ndo rafiki ya babako.
Tumeleta dozi zako, usimize mtoto.
And now we have to deal with a drug addict.
Yaani ulio mzai wako.
I had to.
Sema! Dozi zangu ziko wapi?
Ben!
Tuisheni Uganda.
The road to 2022 is becoming tougher and trickier with each passing day.
Na wawache kuja kutuletea makasiriko.
Political aspirants in a dilemma whether to change allegiance or not.
Nonetheless, you have justified your change of stance.
It's my bloody personal politics.
Stories.
Alright, welcome back. You are watching TV47 News Tonight. At least 800 police officers in Nyeri County have so far been declared medically unfit to adequately serve in the 105,000 strong force. And as Mike Gongo now reports, a total of 59 counsellors have been hired to take care of psychological needs of the force following mental illnesses that has led to brutal killings of members of the public by police officers.
Speaking during medical assessment exercise for police officers in the Central Region, National Police Service Commission Vice Chairman Dr. Oliver Kwal said that many of those found to be unfit were either injured in the Bantry attacks, losing their limbs or eyesight, hence they cannot be able to effectively serve in the force.
Most of them were injured through bandit attacks. Okay. Some were injured in accidents as they were going around the country supporting this country, and so there are those injuries that came in those manners.
She said that so far the Commission has visited a number of the region to medically assess the officers through the medical board formed to spearhead the exercise.
We appointed a medical board because you cannot just look at somebody and say you are sick and you are not sick. It's only a doctor, a professional, who can declare that.
So far, the Commission has hired 59 psychiatrists to counsel officers.
But about 800 or so have been found to be unwell Some of them can be treated and be back to work. Some of them are in states where they need further professional medication or treatment.
On welfare of police officers, she said that commission is working round the clock to ensure officers are well protected, adding that so far they had no backlog of officers with disciplinary issues.
And we have a total of 105,000 police officers nationwide. So when you look at 800 and do the math, is a small percentage. It's not alarming.
For TV 47, I'm Mike Kagwango.
While members of parliament allied to the UDA party have condemned cabinet secretaries involved in active politics while in office. Speaking in Muranga, the legislators led by Kandara Member of Parliament Alice Wahome have called on President Uhuru Kenyatta to ensure cabinet secretaries keep off politics and serve Kenyans. The MPs have at the same time appealed to the electoral body IEBC to guarantee Kenyans a free and fair election.
IEBC is independent. You have no business calling Fred Matiang'i and Mucheru to a meeting when it is in public domain that they have already taken sides. They are not independent to plan elections with them. So we want to ask Wafula Chebukati to do a letter to President Uhuru Kenyatta and outline clearly the mandate of the IEBC as an independent institution and why the IEBC cannot work with ministers who have clearly taken sides and become campaigners and youth wingers of Raila Odinga. And he must tell the president to move those people from those dockets if he must keep them in the cabinet for the purposes of the election.
Deep state is the people of Kenya. Na mumeonyesha bwana hapa Kiamba, uko Juja, uko Rulie, kila pahali. So His Excellency, the President, should deliver for us a free, fair elections, transparent, free from violence. If Our Excellency does that, I think he will place himself in the right part of history of this republic.
Them to decide, Matiang'i, Mucheru, Wamalwa, and the other cabinet secretaries. You must decide whether you are going to serve the Kenyan people and prepare our next general elections together with IEBC in a non-partisan manner, or you are going to be agents and mobilizers of ODM and the opposition. The electoral process in Kenya is sacrosanct. It should be above board. It should be prepared in a way that is fair and in a way that is acceptable to the eyes of the Kenyan people.
Well, a family in Kajiado County is crying for justice after their daughter died mysteriously in a guest house in Kajiado town. Rose Njoki Gasheha is said to have been booked into a Kajiado guest house Friday night by a middle-aged man only to be found dead on Monday. Willie Dennis Njiru has more.
The deceased is said to have left their matrimonial home in Saina Estate Friday the 15th, less than a kilometer from where she met her death. Her father, Rufus Gisheha, confessing of receiving a call from his son-in-law Joseph Kamano on Monday the 18th with request the daughter to desist from alcohol abuse.
Tarehe 18 nilipigiwa simu na nikaambiwa nikanye Rose kukunywa pombe. Nikamwambia maneno ndio wewe yuko naye kwa maana wewe ndio ulifundisha yeye. Akaniambia ukiwa na jaribu tena, jaribu yeye ujue kama vile atasema.
The lodge cleaner said that the man who had accompanied the deceased claimed he was nursing a patient in the room. However, the family questions over foul play in a well-orchestrated cover-up scheme.
Kufika Sunday saa 12, nikapata mwanaume amesimama hapa. Akaniuliza, "Madam, kuna mtu anaweza nipikia chai?" Akaniambia niko na mgonjwa kwa hii nyumba. Nikamwambia mimi naweza nikakupikia chai. Akanipea nikaenda nikanunua maziwa, Nikatengeneza chai na akaniambia nisiweke sukari, nikakuja nikawaletea thermosi na vikombe 2. Wakakunywa hiyo chai, halafu kitu saa 1 hivi akaniitia thermosi na vikombe. Ndio mimi sasa mimi nikafunga kazi nikaenda. Kesho asubuhi yake kitu saa 3 na dakika nikuja kazi nikiwa pale chini, njoo natokanga pande ya chini, nikaona radikurusa imesimama pale. Sasa mimi kukaribia nikapata imeenda, ndio sasa nikapata watu wakaanza kuniambia kuna mama amekuvia hapa kwenu.
The deceased family contend that their daughter was murdered, citing historical domestic altercation for over a decade, and the act could have been precipitated by an act of infidelity.
Huyu ni kupigwa, alikuwa amepigwa. Ni kama vile unaweza piga bibi aende akae mahali kama, au aende kwa rafiki yako kutafuta usaidizi. Baada ya hapo si atasema akisikia kama anaweza kwenda, au aone unasubua hii mtu sana, huyu anakusaidia, si utachukua njia ndio uende kwa baba yako.
Government pathologist Johansen Oduor stating that there was no clear indication of the cause of the death other than scattered bruises, with the body samples collected for further analysis in the government laboratory.
Huyo bibi alikuwa amepigia dadangu simu, akasema ati amepingwa na nyundo, na akasema ako kwa baba yake anaangaliwa na baba yake. Baada ya siku 3 ndipo alipatikana akiwa kwa room, kama amekaa huko kwa room siku 3.
Police are currently holding the husband and a man said to be in the company of the deceased at Kajiado police station, even as the scene remains cordoned off. As the two families await the autopsy report, the tussle looms on who is born fit to bury the deceased.
Ningetaka haki itendeke kwa vile mtu ni mtu. Ikiwa hana iko ukweli ya mauaji, ionekane ukweli ya pande gani. Hiyo ndio mimi naweza penda.
For TV47, I'm Willie Dennis Njiru.
And in business, the World Bank Board of Directors has approved a 16.7 billion shilling financing agreement with the government of Kenya to strengthen local resilience to the impact of climate change in Kenya, as the country will be the global pioneer in social resilience principles of devolved climate finance. This is after President Uhuru Kenyatta stated that in thwarting of urgent climate change adaptation action, Africa's gross domestic product (GDP) risks contracting by up to 30% by the year 2050. The head of state's message was contained in a recorded video address delivered at a hybrid conference hosted by the University of Nairobi in partnership with the Global Center on Adaptation to celebrate the Africa Adaptation Acceleration Day, a precursor to the United Nations Climate Change Conference that will be held in Scotland.
Does indicate that climate change will have a devastating sub-economic impact across the world, but quite severely here in Africa. If we do not take any action, Africa could, as a consequence, see its gross domestic product contract by up to 30% by 2050 due to climate change. We plan to invest approximately $8 billion over the next 10 years. This is just 10% of the total investment needed of the NDCs, and we therefore need support from our international partners. The financing challenge is not peculiar to Kenya. Globally, funding for climate adaptation, which in 2017 averaged around $30 billion a year, would need to increase tenfold to meet the growing needs of vulnerable communities in our warming.
Well, rice farmers in Mwea, Kirinyaga County stormed the Mwea Rice multi-purpose offices demanding for their unpaid dues. The farmers questioned why they had not received their dues despite several visits by Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya. Addressing the farmers, Cooperative Chairman Ndege Muriuki admitted that over 1,000 farmers were yet to receive their payments. 2 weeks ago, Agriculture CS Peter Munya visited the mill and promised farmers that the government will continue to buy rice at 85 shillings per kilogram.
Tumekunja kulipa pesa ya payout ile tunalipangwa mwezi wa 6 na wa 5 na hadi wakati huu hatujalipwa.
Mimi nashindwa, nitaenda kukula nini? Nitaenda kupatia watoto nini? Tumegonjeka masukari, mapulesa, hakuna pesa ya kununua, hatuna pesa ya kununua madawa.
Wakulima ni wengi, wale tulihudumia mwaka huu ni kama wakulima 3,000. Haki tumekiria kama wakulima 2,800 hivi.
Well, Tala has issued a 2 million shilling grant to micro, small and medium enterprises to cushion them from the sting of COVID-19 effect. According to Tala Managing Director Ivan Mboa, the 2 million shilling is a pioneer program that is supposed to be followed by a series of other financial support programs to help MSMEs to register financial growth. The program will provide a conducive digital financial environment for small entrepreneurs. Mboa says the financial recovery programs comes after a series of free financial education program during financial stagnation when COVID-19 was ravaging the country.
Don't be frustrated by any regulatory frameworks. We are here to ensure.
This is very critical because we recognize the importance of MSMEs in this economy. We recognize how much they've gone through as a result of COVID. We've seen a lot of MSMEs essentially even shut down. They've essentially seen sales drop. They've had trouble stocking goods. And we think that although this is a small drop in the ocean and this is a pilot program, it is still a move in the right direction. We hope to encourage other fintech lenders and other mainstream commercial institutions as well to follow suit in finding ways to support MSMEs with some grant programs beyond your normal traditional loans. We want to make sure that we first test the waters, we understand how our grant beneficiaries are using the funds, and we're looking forward to really scaling this beyond to eventually cover a large part of our customer base.